So we have two radicals multiplied together. We have two choices in simplifying that. We can simplify and then multiply, or multiply and then simplify. If I simplify first, the numbers are smaller. So the only thing that divides 10 is 2. Does 10 have any pairs? 10 doesn't have any pairs, so it doesn't have any numbers to come on the outside of the radical sign. So the 10 is going to stay under the radical sign. The 2 times the 5 is going to stay under the radical sign. Does x squared have a pair? A pair of x's, so I'm going to have a pair of x's comes out in front of the radical sign. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the y to the 5th power. I've got 2 pairs of y's. That's the first one, simplified. Then I'm going to multiply it by the 18. 18 will divide by 2. 9 doesn't divide by 2, it divides by 3. So I have a pair of 3s. Please notice I skipped a little space there. One, 2, 3 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 y's. There's a pair of x's, 1, 2, 3 of those, and an x and a y left over. Now, the way you multiply radicals is I am going to multiply this part times this part. I only have the only whole number I have is a 3 there, and then I have some x's, and then I have some y's. This x and this x came from over here. I have a pair of x's, and I have another pair of x's, so that is x squared. I don't know who that was. Okay. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What in the world is my computer doing? I have 5 pairs of y's. Oh, I know what they're doing. All right, and so then what do I have left under the radical sign? A 10 times a 2, and an x, and a y times a y. That'll simplify a little bit more. The 20 has a pair of 2's. I should have gone down to the next row. 3x squared y to the 5th. The 20 has a pair of 2's, that should come out in front here. And it has a 5 left over. That x doesn't have a pair. The y squared has another pair to add to these pairs that I already had there. 2 times 3 makes a 6. X squared y to the 6th, 5x. You multiply these together, and then you multiply outside numbers times outside numbers and inside numbers times inside numbers. Leaving it there a minute so everybody can finish copying that one. Next example, do you see that my radical sign has a little number 3 out here? This number, if you have a number out here, that's called an index number. This is not a square root, this is a cubed root. This is not asking what number is a pair, this is asking what number has groups of 3. What number got multiplied by itself 3 times? For example, the cubed root of 8. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. So the cubed root of 8 is 2, because it's asking what number got multiplied by itself 3 times. Well, if you know the birthday cake, it is very easy to transition to a cubed root because you start it exactly the same way. How do you start a birthday cake? Divide by 2. And then you divide by 2. And then you divide by 2, and then you divide by 2, and then you divide. This has a lot of divide by 2's, doesn't it? And instead of pairs, when you have an index of 3, you are looking for groups of 3. So I have a group of 2's and another group of 2's, and the only thing I have left over is a 1, and the cubed root of 1 is 1, so I don't have to worry about it. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If this is a 3, the only difference from what I was doing before is I'm looking for groups of 3. There's 2 groups of 3, and what's left over? Those 2 are left over. If the index is here, I'm looking for groups of 3. How many groups of 3 did I have? 1, 2, I had 2 groups, and this one's left over. So if you know how to do the birthday cake, it is very easy. I got this a little bit squeezed together, so I'm going to rewrite this. I need to rewrite it anyway because 2 times 2 is 4. And then left over, and this has an index of 3 because the original problem had an index of 3. Index of 3 just means I'm looking for groups of 3 instead of groups of 2. You multiply radicals, multiply this radical by this radical. You multiply a radical times another radical by multiplying the whole number times the whole number. What's 3 times 2? And then you multiply 6 times 3. What's 6 times 3? But you can't leave it like that because 8 is not a simplified number. You have to do the birthday cake on the 18. 2 will go into 18, 3 will go into 9, 3 will go into 3. There's a pair of 3s and a 2 left over. And the 6 that was already out in front is still out in front. 6 times 3 is 18 square roots of 2. That's the simplified answer once you multiply these together. You multiply these together and then you simplify. Does this kind of look like a box problem? A binomial times a binomial? It is a binomial times a binomial, and so you multiply a binomial times a binomial with a box problem. 3 times 3 is 9. What's 3 times that? Well, that's what it is, 3 times that. What's 3 times that? And the negative sign because that one's negative. Negative times a negative makes a negative. Square root of 6 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 36. You see where I got this 36? If both of the numbers are under the radical, you multiply the under the radical numbers together. So, what's going to happen to these terms right here where I have one positive and one negative? They're exactly the same except I have a positive 3 and a negative 3. Those are going to cancel out. So this is going to give me 9 minus the square root of 36. What is the square root of 36? The answer is 3. I think that's enough for right now. Is that blowing your brains?